Welcome back to Beyond the Wrench. My name is Jay Goninen, and I am your host. On today's show, I am really excited to welcome John Melendez from JDM Collision in Illinois. John is one of my favorite people in the industry. Every time I talk to John, we have an absolute blast, and he's highly educated, highly certified, as we'll go through this conversation and talk a lot about, but just a smart person. I am jealous, John, because you told me you were getting your hands dirty this morning on some C8 Corvettes.
Absolutely, Jay. Best part about it is I love working on them cars, and the same with the customers. But the best part about that is I've never had a C8 talk back to me yet.
There are days where not being behind a computer or not being on a phone really seems appealing, and being able to just walk out to your shop, got a beautiful shop, beautiful facilities, and just kind of be able to wrench. That's got to be fun.
It is, honestly, and then and that keeps me engaged. And of course, if I'm going to give direction, I should lead by example, and that's been so important. But just to be involved is what's keeping me well-rounded and up to date on the way these cars are changing. I found that out the hard way. If I don't stay engaged and continue with the education, Jay, I'm going to fall behind, and I really don't want to have that happen because it is a great time to be in the industry if you have good direction.
Your perspective is always great. In even if something is maybe not going the direction you want it to go, or if you see the industry and have some frustrations with it, I always get the sense that you're coming from a viewpoint of trying to help the industry and trying to push it in a forward direction.
Yeah, and that's a valid point, Jay, where I see a lot of that and where it stems from and what we're trying to do is if we can get consistency in our industry, and just to mention like this past panel discussion that we had last week in SEMA, I was sitting next to a very bright young man from K&M Collision, and I always reference, I just met him, and that's Kyle Bradshaw, and he made it very clear that guesstimate is basically got to come out of the equation, that we do not want to start the process with any consumer that walks in our door, that we truly should give that consumer a damage report and keep them involved on what it's going to take to get that car back to pre-loss condition. And I think that's very important, and resonating in a direction in which if we had a process that was the same across the nation, then there's only one way to do a damage report, and the only thing that changes is just the make and model. And if we can get that solid and have that word put out there, our industry is going to be even better to work with.
Oh, I can't wait to dive into some of this. Before we do that, we've got to start with a young John Melendez and understand what brought you into this industry. With a John name, I do have to ask, has it always been John, or was there a Jonathan, Johnny, any variations of the first name?
If you ask my wife, we couldn't say that under circumstances of verbiage. After 35 years, but of course, I'm a strong supporter, and I just want to emphasize that. No, not exactly. No overall nicknames or anything like that. But in reference to starting out, that young John started out, and now I'm going to start admitting my age, Jay, which I really didn't want to do today, is 1973. My dad bought a shop, and I was involved in that. And of course, give you a quick little background and starting out, like anything else, there was a broom put in my hand. Then it was picking up the tools. It was wiping the tools. And I was always upset with the fact, and not realizing, let's use Karate Kid as an example, the wax on, the wax off. It that resonated after that movie back in '85, and understanding what direction my dad was trying to put me into, and understanding that you need to learn a tool. If I asked you, and now mind you, once again the age is coming into play, I need a half-inch wrench, or I need a half-inch 6-point socket. Oh no, I need a 12-point in this case. Believe it or not, picking up all that stuff, it really helped me, and then of course it gave me the path and the direction where I'm at today.
I think the attention to detail piece is something, as we go through this conversation, you'll start to understand about John. is that I don't know that a stone goes unturned with you, right? You do have a different level of detail in I think one of the most, I guess, high quality shops that I've seen. And I think it's what drives you to be so successful, right? And so, you look at those early days of your career and maybe what your father taught you about that attention to detail. I started off very similar in my career, right? Which was in a family shop, cleaning, sweeping, taking the garbage out. At the time, we used to burn cardboard, so I had like a old burn barrel and take cardboard
You
out
look
and
forward
burn
to
it.
that
Now,
one.
yeah. That was always fun. But you're absolutely right. I think that sets the stage for a lot of really, really good things. Now, as you kind of went up, the difference in our trajectory and how our careers went was that I was a terrible technician. Turns out you were pretty darn good. How did you go down that technical route and be so good?
Oh, dude, that is just an honest, and I appreciate that type of question, Jay, because I got tired of sweeping that floor. I got tired of picking up them tools. And I got tired of watching my uncle, who worked at my dad's shop, that he was literally putting him under his belt. And this goes back to when I was 13 years old. Now, mind you, you're looking back now in the late 70s and going to the 80s, which I don't want to use the math no more. Like I said, I don't want to keep it netting that. Is that my dad was a fireman, so he would work 24 hours and then he was off 48 hours and he had the shop. Myself and there was a couple other employees there, and then my dad's brother, which was my uncle, always giving them the attention. Well, they finally got me so ticked off one day. There was and I'll never forget this, a 1968 Chevelle, black, and it had to be painted complete. It was a complete paint job on this thing. It had to be immaculate. Back then it was lacquer. I went ahead and my dad was working that Sunday. And I decided, you know what? I prepped, I sanded, I cleaned. I'm like, you know what? The easy part is right around the corner. I'm going to do it. And that was my first paint job. And I went ahead and I did the car myself. My dad came in the next morning. I went to school. I went to school, didn't get back, and my uncle was going to take credit for this. I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. I painted the car, and none of them wanted to believe it. I says, do you think I did
Really?
Sunday? I did. I says, so honestly, I could paint better than him. And you guys have spent all the time with him. And believe it or not, till today, I still razz my uncle because he's in the insurance side of it. And I says, you could not even fix a car today, let alone put gas in it, just like it was when we were younger.
How old were you when you painted that first car?
13 years old.
Oh my goodness. And what a brave soul. You went out and when you're 13 and maybe you had this little rebel in you that was like, I'm just going to do it. I don't know if I would have had the guts to do that.
Yeah, because you know what? They were giving me these taxi cab, these old checkered cabs, old Dulux yellow. Oh, paint this fender, because here we got to get it out right away. Or you could do the inside of that. I'm like, I've been painting these things since I was, just coming into the shop after the fact. But honestly, I got to strike that. It was 15, Jay, not 13. It was 15 years old.
Even 15, pretty impressive.
Yeah, and it just got to the point. It was like I'm doing a lot of the prep work, and it's like the easy part. All these guys are taking that, and then they're putting a buffer in my hand. I'm like, oh no, no, no! I want to have some fun here, and honestly, that's what gave me the direction.
Do you have any runs in that first paint job?
No, but the back I couldn't reach the back of the rear package tray panel, and it was a little dry right there, and that's the only spot they had to redo. But everything else was nice. I couldn't reach it.
That super impressive. So you go from that paint job. Where does your life go from there? I assume maybe you're earning a little bit more trust as you're in the shop and
Oh yeah,
you're pulling off some more of this.
Took the initiative, and I made it very clear by paying attention and watching everybody else, created a better technician than the one that you spent the time with. Until
Wow.
today, I still emphasize that with my uncle. I drive him nuts on that. And mind you, we're 4 years apart. Until today, if he ever comes to the shop, I make it very clear. I bet you can't pick up that gun and paint that car now, could you? It resonates that way. And of course, you get his nostrils to flare. And I just love having that little dig into him over the years because I was neglected and I took offense to that even till today.
So what happens? Do you go through high school, kind of the traditional route that way?
Yes, Jay. And you know what? I was fortunate that when I went through when I got into high school, they had the work program back then. So therefore, I was in school the first thing in the morning, and then I went and worked at my dad's shop in the afternoon. Of course, and I was threatened that, I do grade you. So if you're not behaving, you're going to get a bad grade. That was another dig that they used to give me and razz me about. But that was very beneficial that I was able to do that. And I wish more programs would come back in reference to what we did back in the day and give these kids a true hands-on. I think that's lacking right now, and they wonder why we're having issues in some of these high schools and acquiring new talent. Not to get off the
Oh,
subject, Jay. And
I yeah, we could go on that forever, and I
right.
think we'll dive into that later on because I do think that hands-on portion is so important. But looking at your path, when do you start full time at the shop?
Oh boy, I'll tell you, going through that, and I had to grow up real fast, Jay, at the age of 17. I was going to be a dad, and it left me no point that my dad's business was smaller, and with the complexity and the way cars are changing, and that's when the X body came out, the Chevy Citation. We had to actually farm that car out just to get the unibody corrected because we didn't have a frame, we didn't have a bench to pull these things. When I seen that, and then understanding I had to grow up real fast, it left me no choice but to move on, and I ended up working and going to a dealership, and I've been in the dealership world ever since.
Wow. So you go to a dealership
I'm a
at
mechanic. I went in
17
as
then?
no, of course I had to be. At my 18th birthday, I ended up getting married. Now I have to be responsible. I had to grow up real fast. So
Right.
during that, I did manage to secure a job at a local dealer, and I went into the service department. And like I said, from doing oil changes, whatever I could, I just got my foot in the door. And then they found out that I was well rounded, of course, and into the body side. So the manager ended up pulling me inside of there. And then, of course, there was a lot of animosity in service because I learned how to do the dashboards, the climate control, steering column rebuilding. And I was painting and doing all that there and still doing the mechanical work. And that body
Wow.
shop manager was benefiting from that because his bottom line just drew because that was done in there. And, the body shop was like the redheaded stepchild, and the mechanical side is they're the number one guys. And even back then, I had a dual type certification in which I was going after both, and I was utilizing to be able to do better and to make myself more money. As far as flagged hours, I was flagging mechanical hours in the body shop.
How so you were on a flat rate type system just coming in?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I told them I was a seasoned veteran, and when I walked into the dealership, I barely had any tools. I used a credit card. I had a brand new box I got from Sears. I'm unwrapping everything, and I think I had this manager so scared. He's like, "I thought you said you had tools." I says, "I do." He says, "But they're new." I says, "Well, I couldn't take tools from my dad's shop." Oh, okay. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. It scared the crap out of this guy. He thought, "Oh man, this guy's BSing me, right?" I got plastic and boxes and opening everything up. Just got the basic craftsman set, and I went to work.
Wow. And so when you start working on the collision side, are you doing all the prep stuff again, or
Oh,
do you go straight into the paint stuff?
I went
And
straight into the body side, and I was very fortunate that I had a technician put me under his wing, and
ooh,
working together with a gentleman that was very well rounded. He helped me. He showed me more about structural pulling, and then of course when he would get a job that was damaged or it was a theft recovery, we would work together. He would do the body side, I would do the mechanical side. The car never went to service, and our little department was being more efficient because we were working together back then. And that's where I was able to continue and keep that under my belt. And I've always seen that type of networking when I was young, and that's what I instilled what I'm doing today.
what was his name?
His name was Jerry Plonzinski. This old Polak, he looked like Mr. Goodwrench. He had the round glasses on, the same Buster Brown hair, always wore his uniform, and he looked like that poster that was up there. And it was just, I was very fortunate to have that man put me under his wing to help me, and I am very grateful for that.
I We talk so much to successful people on this podcast, and that seems like a common thread or a common theme in that the impact that our mentors have on us, right? And I've got business card right here of one of my really a mentor that I loved and really think that he was a reason I ended up in the position I did in my career was because of him and several others. But hearing your story there, I'd like to maybe just hear a little bit about more about him as a mentor and how he taught you. Was it trying to just give you the hands on, or was it, hey, watch me do this and then you do it? Give me an idea. How did he teach you?
Well, having respect for him because I worked in the stall right next to him. And if he needed to anchor a car down because we didn't really have the benches in there, we would using the floor systems. That I would literally move a car over, see that he was there, or because he was an older gentleman, if it was bringing out the dozer to get something pulled, I would help him, and just being respectful. And I'm always a firm believer by giving that respect, I'm going to get it back in return. And honestly, Jay, I hit a home run with that. And
Wow.
that's what helped me realizing that I was, brought up respectfully. You respect anybody or everybody that you end up conversing with or doing things with, and hopefully you get it in return. And that's where I ended up getting it from. And with having that type of attitude and going through, this man was a very sharp body man. And he showed me how to pick and file and straighten out panels versus, having to do replacement, showing, that you're going to do it the right way, doing it from the back side, front side, any little concept that there was. And then, of course, coupling that with continuing with the GM platform and going through schools, or I should say the GM schooling that was available, or tech bulletins and information. He would show me referencing how that is. And then, of course, adjusting a door. I'll never forget this. That was the first time working with this man. He had a dead blow hammer. He says, now, this is how you adjust this frame. And whacked the crap out of this thing. He says, now it's going to line up just right. I'm like, are you kidding me? He goes, no. You'll see that when you go to one of the assembly lines. They have the same exact hammer. And I mean, that resonated and it stuck with me. Till today, I'm like, wow, okay, some basic common sense just to get this straightened out to make the job go, just to complete the job. And having that type of involvement and direction from somebody who was a seasoned veteran back then is something I'll never forget.
I've said this in the past, but I think this is worth sharing again, that for those techs that are listening to this, never underestimate the impact that you have in a shop, right? Because if you are taking that mentorship type role, even if you know it or not, right? I think a lot of folks maybe don't have the moniker or the title that goes along with being a mentor, but your legacy could easily outlive you if you treat young people right, right? Like if you're taking somebody under your wing and treating them the right way, showing them respect and really trying to help them, you have no idea how much that helps a young person out. And that will help your legacy live on forever.
It's funny you mention it, Jay, because that's exactly how I feel. I've been involved with the different schools, going to or putting together some segments at the colleges. I just recently got back from East Peoria for the instructors, and there's like 11, 12 mechanical instructors, like 4 or 5 bodies, explaining the collaboration, what's important, and going in that direction. Enjoy that. Hopefully, plant that seed. But circling back to that point, I ended up having this past summer 2 kids came in from the local high school program, and this gentleman's name is George Navarrete. He's a CT instructor for Thornton Fractional North that is in our backyard, right outside of the area. And he decided to bring 2 kids in there, and the first thing I did is I took them into the paint shop area, showed them the programmable robotic arm, how this is so important, how you program things. And I took them right to the 3D measurement system using the CAD system. I let them kids turn it on. I let them kids go through and start measuring. It resonated so well just out of that. And this man did this in summer. School's out of session. And I ended up hiring one of them young men. And he even contacted back his instructor, says, hey, man, I did get hired by JDM. I'm extremely happy. He's still with us till today. He's doing a phenomenal job. He's getting on the new ICAR Academy program with one other young man. Jay, I got a call 3 or 4 weeks ago. Hey, John, is it a problem if I can put something together? Because I'll tell you, it resonated so well seeing the shop of what you have today and how advanced it is. I would really like to bring a few more kids so we can get them in there and get a program together. Well, it's set up. I think it's going to end up happening here December 2nd, I think is going to be the date. I got 14 kids coming. Okay. And
I love that.
I'm excited, and I managed to get a hold of iCar. I mean, Bud Center is going to be out here, the marketing team, the media team, and Jay, I think we're actually going to have a local news channel that's going to come out on this because I'm taking the day and I'm creating a complete process from when the car comes in, when it's checked in, how it gets pre-washed, how it gets identified, how the paint shop is doing, taking it into the advanced body center, showing our alignment center, how we check wheels and tires and tread and with the new advanced electronic laser machines that we have in the back. And I'm going through step by step by step for these kids. When I contacted iCar, I got 14 shirts coming for these kids. I got 14 safety glasses coming for these kids, and even having lunch catered in. I am going to go all out, and I just hope that I'm able to plant that seed and get that glimmer. And hopefully, and now I'll have another one or two future techs that I could bring on board, like the young man that we have now. But at least say, look, a shop like this and people who truly respect and want you in our industry is what I'm trying to get across. And I'm excited for
Man,
this one coming up.
for shops out there listening, how John is approaching that is about as perfect as you can get, right? It is about trying to create more awareness about what you're doing and the involvement in the program, the high school program as a whole, and whether it's high school, community college, being able to get involved and do just what you're doing, which was put together something that was a little more formalized. There, it took a little bit more planning. You're going about it in a fully intentional way, getting iCar involved, fine folks at iCar. I love that, man. That is so cool and very, very impactful. So I'd love to hear that. Now we can't totally veer off your story though. We need to talk through your story. You go from your mentor, and what happens next? You start working on more stuff by yourself. You kind of keep growing your career. Walk me through that side a little bit.
Yes, exactly that way, Jay. I was able to get well rounded, and I'm once again very, very grateful for having a mentor that I was able to work underneath. That was extremely helpful.
Yeah.
And then, of course, what ended up happening is that the years that I was at that dealership, and hell, one thing I'm very proud of, working next to them, and then now going into full flagged hours, and doing very well and making a good living. At the age of 20, I bought my first house because I was working at the dealership doing well.
Dang.
Yes,
Wow.
yes, yes. And then from there, I continued with that. And I was there for 4 years. And then we lost our manager. He moved on. And he ended up, then that was a Pontiac dealership. From there, he ended up going to an Oldsmobile GMC dealership that was further south, that was in Northwest Indiana. And next thing you know, about 3 months later, I get a call from him. He says, "Hey," he says, "how you been doing?" I says, "Oh, we're still doing good, and still working with Jerry and Tom the painter and everybody. We're all still there." He goes, "Not for long." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Oh, Jerry's going to be leaving. He's coming back with me. So is Tom. So is Mark." He goes, "And we have a spot for you." I'm like, "Really?" He didn't say nothing. And this is honest to God's truth. So we're getting all situated. Everybody one by one is coming out because he didn't want to hurt the dealer, but then again he was very upset with the service manager. Once again, there's that fighting going on. And when he went out of that, when I get in, I'm like, all right. So we get into the shop and go into the office, and everybody's setting up their tools, everything else. I get my tools there. He says, "You don't need them, John." I'm like, "What?" He goes,
What are
"No,
you talking about?
I'm the service director. You're my new body shop manager." I'm like, "Okay, I didn't see this coming." And
How?
ever since then, I've been in the management side, but yet I still kept working. But that man is the one that planted the seed. He says, "No, you need to be running our body shop."
How? I mean, and this is one of those things where I think maybe we've evolved a little bit as an industry, but one of those things where I'm like, there's definitely opportunities to prepare somebody like you for that role a little bit more. Obviously, you've been highly successful throughout your career, but there are a lot of times where that exact scenario happens and it doesn't work, right? Because you bring somebody from the technical side into the shop, into the management chair without a whole lot of training. You just kind of put them there, pluck them there because they were good in the shop. Would you have advice for somebody that's kind of making that transition right now?
Absolutely. we're going to circle back just a little bit. What helped
Yeah,
provoke that, and
yeah.
I didn't see the writing on the wall. When he was on vacation, he was teaching me how to write estimates, to use the platform, use the program. He was never this way. He didn't want nobody going in and hurting his job, and he relied on me. And slowly but surely, I was getting that information, and he blindsided me when I ended up going to that dealership. Didn't expect it, but in reference to that. And once again, you're going to still have to be engaged in the educational part, regardless
Yeah.
if you're going to step out and you're going to go into the management side, you're going to be writing estimates. Being a well rounded individual that has the ability to identify the damage, it makes it so much easier how you're going to have a technician fix the car. And
Hmm.
I strongly emphasize that we need more people that are willing to transition to that next level, is going to make the industry more consistent, where that person is able to truly identify, and not some of these individuals, and not being disrespectful to young individuals that are working for certain insurance companies, but they follow a script. And I'm totally intimidated by the fact if somebody comes in there, they're going to hand me an estimate. Well, this is how the car is going to get fixed. I says, until you can exceed my credentials, then I'll accept that estimate. Oh, by the way, you can't. So therefore, here is ours. How you arrive at that figure is your problem. Okay. And I don't want to get off that subject, but I have to emphasize that, because that'd be like somebody, all the years that you've been in business, they're going to tell you how to wrench on a car and that this is all you're going to get paid. That doesn't go very well.
Doesn't add up.
No, no, but and going back to that, where if we have more individuals, because our talent pool it's changing, and I would respect the fact that for that person who doesn't want to do the work anymore, and they're getting up to that level in which now their bones are aching a little bit more, and things are a little bit more difficult or complex, but yet their talents could be truly utilized on a direction to either being a mentor, being a production manager, even a parts. I mean, there's still enough room to keep these guys engaged in their industry, and I think that will make it that much stronger.
Technicians, have you checked out WrenchWay yet? It's a free online community for automotive and diesel professionals just like you. Whether you're job hunting or just looking to connect with other industry professionals, WrenchWay makes it easy to explore opportunities, stay updated on industry news, and help promote the technician profession. With WrenchWay, you can see detailed job info you care about before you apply or interview, stay in the loop with what's happening in the auto and diesel community, explore technician compensation in your area and across the U.S., track your certifications, and much more. Join the WrenchWay community for free at wrenchway.com or download the WrenchWay mobile app. Links are in the show notes. Walk me through the JDM Collision side then. Like, as far as getting into your own business and just trying to, like, the whole story of JDM in general. Can
Okay.
you walk me through that side?
All right. JDN's been in existence for 20 years. We celebrated our 20-year anniversary this year, which
Happy
was,
anniversary.
thanks, buddy. It was in June. And once again, where's been my heart? I've been in dealerships. I did a couple bouts with a couple MSOs, was very short lived. And in 1997, I ended up going to work for a large dealership group, which they had 19 franchises under their belt. And I left a good position with the larger MSO, and I acquired this. And the thing that I did is, being very careful with the state that I was in, being an at will state, I didn't want to take a chance on leaving a good job that I had a very strong position with. I wanted to secure myself with direction and security, because I felt I've earned it with over the years and working, and now I'm on the management side, but yet still have the ability to keep working. So I wanted to couple that with the right organization, and I did. And with working with this organization from 1997 up until 2005, that dealership treated me like gold. We had three dealership body shops. I converted it into one and worked that, and then I bought it from the dealer principal in 2005, and that's where I'm at today.
How does that conversation go with the dealer principal?
Oh, it was fantastic, because he had five other kids, which that was their management team, and or they all had a stake inside of the business, not realizing that I construed a contractual agreement with ownership interest. Instead of taking bonuses, I invested in myself to buy the place. And the reason why I ended up getting this type of recognition with this dealer principal, God rest his soul, it was because of the respect, the empathy I had, And I really put forth the effort in which the department was extremely profitable, and it continued. And there was a reason why. It wasn't John looking at the clock and quitting at 5 o'clock. I did whatever I had to maintain it and to keep that integrity and keep that collaboration with the service department and not being that redheaded stepchild. And whatever I wanted, that body shop received it because it was totally recognized on a different level by instilling that type of attitude and working together.
I think I'd love to get some advice there as well on how you approach that, because we hear from so many technicians that I feel like struggle on the communication side with leadership in being able to have open, transparent conversations. I think a lot of them are maybe scared of having something held over their head by a leader, or maybe just don't have that confidence that you did to have those open conversations, to even have maybe that forethought to really even know that ownership was possible. Right. There's so many things that I give you credit for throughout that process. And I want to maybe pull some of what you did out of that to give some advice to the audience and say, okay, how did you go about that, John? Like having that conversation, it can't be an easy conversation. Obviously respect is a big piece of it, but if it's somebody looking for a promotion, or it's somebody looking for a raise, it's somebody, maybe wanting to open their own shop someday, I think so many people are terrified of having that conversation that are technicians. How should they go about that?
That could be answered in many different areas, Jay, considering I was fortunate that I had a dealer principal that came up the same way like a lot of us did. He was working in wrenching and eventually ended up buying a dealership and ended up growing to so many. Very similar story. When you look at from where my age group comes from, I'm the tail end of the baby boomers. That generation looked at, for those who did hard work and were consistent, were rewarded. Didn't have to ask for that raise. Didn't have to look outside of that. Them days are gone, Jay. We're the last of what that piece of the puzzle that it would get put together with other different pieces that allowed us to go ahead and be able to achieve that next level goal. And I just happened to land the right dealer in which I was able to basically live his legacy with the body shop by able to buy it. And he was very receptive to that. So to try to comment outside of that, we don't know if any other dealer is going to be the same way or the same mindset.
Right.
But in reference to answering the question more stringent is consistency, hardworking, empathetic, and truly having the customer's best interest as far as doing your repairs properly. In my case, I graduated up into the customer side of it. And let me tell you something. I did not let one single customer have a car delivered that they were disappointed on. I had the highest CSI within that department for the dealership and won trips or this. And the dealers are always good for that, or send them out, or John, you just won this, or you got that, or here's an extra stipend simply because, your CSI was consistent. Follow-up phone calls, truly making sure that client was completely satisfied. A lot of things that are missing today in reference to that, even some of these dealers, because a lot of their writers, they're overwhelmed and they're losing that personal touch, and then they wonder why they have issues. And that's what helped me, Jay, over the years. It's just, and honestly, once again, lead by example, be a person that truly has the right direction and does care about everything he does, and everything else will follow right behind it.
Ooh, and a little patience mixed in there too, right? I think that was one of my faults early in my career, was that I was not patient. I wanted to, and I think there are a lot of young people right now that are probably in that same boat where I just want that next promotion. I just want to keep, you kind of want to keep moving. And if I were to tell my younger self something, it would be like, slow down a little bit. Like you don't need to get to that next level so fast. And in fact, I think at some point that hurt me a little bit too, of like, you're trying to grow so fast and you're trying to get to the next level so fast,
right,
that you really don't take a breath and be like, hey, should focus on, maybe just like you did, perfect your craft, make sure that whatever you're doing, that you do it better than anybody else. And I think the red carpet will be laid out for you in the future. Right. And
right,
it's,
exactly, Jay.
Yeah.
And if
I
it
think that's
doesn't,
really point.
then you got to look back and you got to ask yourself the question, do I continue? Is it going to be beneficial? Like, I did switch a few dealers for that same reason. There was no other direction, or there was no any more to move. And luckily, because of working so close with this one manager, that he kept us under his wing. And honestly, his success was based upon the people he surrounded himself with, and that's the same philosophy that I believe in today. My business is successful because I have the right people working underneath, and we're working together.
Oh, and you do it as good as anybody, really surrounding yourself with good people. So I always love to hear that type of story. As you're getting this thing started and kind of just really rolling, it had to have been a benefit because you had those relationships already, right? Where maybe you don't have to take the route of a typical small business owner, and that you've got some business built in, you've got some loyalty built in when you're rolling out this JDM Collision side.
Yeah, it is, Jay. And like I said, the networking, and then of course being a dealership body shop, that same customer base. I'm fixing second generation kids cars now from the same ones that I've had over the years, and it's such a great feeling that I'll have the kids come in and hey, my dad said to come over here, just want to get this taken care of, and then of course get a call back from the dad, man. He says, I really appreciate the advice you gave my son, or my daughter. You looked out for them, and having that type of rapport with our existing and our past customers and helping out the second generation just solidifies that, what, when you do, or when you are empathetic and you really want to be helpful, for them to send their kids or their wife, and that's the way it should be, because this way here they know that we're going to be doing things right, and that's why I decided to make the larger investment and update and get myself ready for tomorrow's repairs. I'm very proud of that. And Jay, God forbid, if it all fails, I'm going to be on a corner somewhere with a hot dog wagon. Trust me.
I don't think you'll ever be operating a hot dog wagon. I think your skills are always going to be in demand. You talked about investment in skills, and I think you take that about as seriously as anybody I've ever met in terms of your credentialing, your training. Talk to me about that a little bit, because it feels like have so many of those credentials that a lot of people in this industry would love to have. You've got a lot.
Well, and Jay, I can't take all the credit for that. I'm going to be honest with you. Back in 2010, when I bought the body shop in 2005, okay, and in 2010, when we had from 2008 to 2010, we lost a lot of dealers, right?
Oh,
With
it's
the
tough.
cash for clunkers and everything else that was going on, there was a lot of negativity. That, what, believe it or not, them 19 franchises, by the time they started dissecting and cutting back because everything that was going on, I lost them all. No
Mm.
longer had the affiliation, and dealer principal dissolved the corporation. They lost the Chevy hat. I mean, there was so much of that going on, and I thank God that it didn't affect us, because the body shop was already 5 years under my belt, for one. Two, I still had that customer base, and I'm very fortunate that it was able to continue even during that downturn. So, I mean, and it continued. Now, from 2010 to current, in which, by the way, to reference why I can't take all the credit for it, I had a GM rep that this guy really saw the future, and he's the one that planted the seed. He says, John, you ended up losing the dealership where you had your hat, which was a Chevrolet, Buick, Oldsmobile, GMC, Pontiac. All of them were inside of this dealer principal's belt. Okay. When they were gone, I had nowhere else to continue my education. This GM rep put me into a dealership that I'm still networking with till today, that kept
Really?
me where I can continue my education, for one. Number two, by going that route, he also made it clear to me, with the complexity of these cars and what's coming down the pipeline, you need to get yourself well rounded and get yourself in a position in which you can start doing both, like you have been. And it's going to come up to where the shop is going to have to be well rounded to be on the new certification programs that are coming down the pipeline. Until today, I thank that man for the direction he gave me, and that gave me the new direction and the new platform that JDM is today.
Well, I think it credit to you though for actually taking that seriously, right?
Oh,
Because I
absolutely.
think you could have easily gotten that advice and said, I don't need that, and kind of kept going the same way that you were, but you took a little bit of a different outlook at it.
Yes. And, definitely, Jay, but I didn't really think that it was going to get this advanced. I thought it was still going to be able to bang on that fender. If I got to pull a drivetrain out or something basic, that's going to be no problem. ADAS, ooh, what was that back in 2015? Okay. Oh, now you got to start scanning cars. Hello. Okay. And exactly everything he was saying, it came to fruition. I was like, now I get it.
Mm, that's wild. I just kind of the evolution you've seen over your career of our industry. How do you keep pushing yourself for those credentials then? Because, obviously they've gotten you to this point. And when we talk about credentials, let's talk about what credentials you're talking about, right? Like what is it that you have for credentials?
Right now, I with General Motors, I've kept my master status with them, and that's through the Center of Learning. And we're talking many
Mhm.
years that I've continued to go ahead and get whatever is available that's there from electronics, suspension, you name it, from climate control, EV. Everything that's available that is required, I've still been able to continue with that. And once again, I want to make that very clear is because of the GM rep that managed to at least plant me into a dealership that I continue with that education, which he knew that was very important. And for the record, I'm on 4 different dealerships rosters as their preferred technician in reference to this industry. And that strong point that I have with networking with these dealers, they require my education to be on their roster for what is here today for these cars.
Wow.
And that's one of the biggest advantages I have. And I thank God for having that education. So taking that and coupling it with iCar as a platinum certified structural technician, platinum certified non-structural technician, platinum certified estimator, platinum certified refinish technician. Okay. And the only one that I have lacking because I've got a little tired here, I'm getting older, Jay, is I've got to do the ADAS and I'm going to couple the iCars EV and then anything else that ASC has. But I do have that portion from the GM segment because of the EV cars that are in the platform that I had to get that education, whether I liked it or not. But I feel that is limited, in which I would like to get more well rounded with other makes and models that I want to be able to service.
Man, how much time do you spend on this? Like, when do you have the time to do all of this? Because it feels like a lot.
It is, Jay. A lot of it is that we're empty nesters, okay, and of course I try to occupy myself with segments and education and educational platforms or online training. A lot of it is done that way, and it keeps me from doing all the honeydew stuff around the house. So
That's about as honest of an answer as you're going to get. That's really good.
yes, sir. Well, of course,
Was that what I was expecting.
honestly, so now you know why I'm so engaged in education, and the wife is very apprehensive of me even buying another car these days.
Oh, that made my day. That was pretty good.
Good.
Walk me through one of the things we just had a conversation last week at SEMA that I thought was fascinating, which was how you've been able to leverage some of your certifications and just trying to paint that picture of credibility so that when you walk into a conversation with an insurer on how they're going to pay you, you've got backup to be able to say, hey, I did this the right way. I need to be paid accordingly. Talk to me a little bit about that. Like, what impact does that credentialing have on you and your ability to maybe get what you're worth or what you should get paid?
Jay, that's valid, and it's only going to reference that niche business that JDM is what it is today. Okay, and now we're going to go with my GM credentials. I have like 5 pages that could be printed up in reference to what I've had over the years. I supply that to the insurance company. Now I have a master status, okay? I have the ASC status that couples with it. Then I have the iCar status that couples with that. That right there alone solidifies that. And when you go into our shop and you look at the equipment, from having your own ADAS, having your own alignment rack, having your own tire machines, your own balancers, the 3D, everything that is pertinent for doing a proper repair, and especially since I have the credentials that's coupled with the GM and the brand itself, they have no choice but to pay. And it is solidified, and I do get compensated accordingly. And I mean, it makes sense. Now, Believe it or not, I'm doing the Ford. I'm going to get in Ford right now because I had a dealer contact me. And the other one is going to be a JLR, that's Jaguar Land Rover. That one is a very stringent type certification. But I've already asked, I want the mechanical side. I want to couple that with this because I am not going to give any insurance company any leverage saying that because you don't have that right type of certification, we're not going to pay you. I've found a loophole in the system and I hit a home run.
It sure sounds to me like your honey-do list is going to really be delayed with all
That's a
of
good
these.
thing.
I, you mentioned ASE in there, and being that my background is primarily on the repair side, I think there are some, I think just almost confusions or maybe lack of understanding with the correlation between maybe an iCar and ASE. We've partnered with both of them. They're both great organizations.
Sure.
How do you see that kind of whole thing working together, right? You talked about using it to justify being paid properly. You're just stacking credentials in order to be able to have that argument, or like walk me through that ASE side where you see that maybe being relevant on the collision side.
Simply with the way these cars are being built today. And what we're trying to draw the line, Jay, is when these adjusters or these outside appraisings or third party provider that they hire to reevaluate the damage, I've been writing estimates for 20 years. Okay, that's great, but let me tell you something. The car has changed today. That's what's provoked me to go in and have that dual type certification, simply because of how complex the cars are today. Okay, so now I want to know this. And the reason why I want to couple that with my existing education that I have now is I want to be able to truly identify the damage and repair it the right way. And you have to have that type of credential to reassure ourselves this is where we're going. And number two, that same person that's been writing estimates for 20 years, Jay, honestly, I'm not trying to be disrespectful in regards to that person, but I wouldn't let him put gas in my car today. Just because how complex the cars are, and that's not being disrespectful, and I emphasize that. And I'm going to continue, and hopefully this industry is going to couple and embrace this type of direction and certification is going to reassure their business is going to be compensated accordingly, but yet take the compensation out of the equation. Don't you want to know what it's going to take to repair that car? You've got to understand the concept from mechanical, suspension, to body, to drivability. You need to know, how are you going to put out a car that you can't identify that suspension was damaged and it's been compromised? And I just recently made a comment in the last panel discussion that I had. I got a brand new C8. The guy wiped the car out. Car's spun out, hit it, took out the rear suspension. I think it's got a rail that's completely damaged. So what we did is, with our ability to go into Global Connect, sit there, let's get it scanned. And my apprentice that's working underneath me says, hey, Brian, do me a favor. Test left front, right rear, save the left rear for final. I want you to do a test on the calipers. Okay, that's part of our safety inspection. The left rear caliper and emergency caliper failed the test.
Really?
Yes, sir. 100%. Now do you see why it's so important to try to bring in the mechanical side of this when you're identifying damage? Now, because it wasn't scratched, now it does have a carbon fiber rotor on this thing, and you know what? I'm not going to take a chance because Grandma's not driving that car. I'm going to replace that and the bearing and the rest of the suspension and the bolts that are there. But because the rotor and the the caliper and the emergency caliper didn't have any damage, that doesn't mean that it isn't. And it was uncovered by doing this proper safety repair. It even surprised the crap out of me. I'm like, see, guys, now, and honestly, that's been resonating for what's going on and taking in consideration what Bud Center and iCar and Mike Anderson are doing today. That is what pushed me, because they told me a few stories on shops that are actually not in business anymore because of certain instances that happen, or something that happened is like, I don't want no more part of this. Okay. That's where this collaboration is so important for identification and the true safety of doing a car right. I have one more instance. I have a brand new E-Ray that was hit. This guy hit a pothole the size of Texas. Okay. So what happens is it takes out the suspension front and rear. Well, Bud Center made it clear to me. He says, "Hey, John, you know what? Did you take in consideration about checking that rack and pinion out? It's electronic." I says, "You know what? That's right." So I'm looking back and forth and I'm hearing, you know what? We're going to have to get an ohm meter. We're going to have to take the rack out of the car and we're going to have to test it that way, or at least move it and check the value. Well, come to find out, it's in our GDS too. We plugged it right in, plugged the car in. We're able to go right to the rack and pinion, set the car up. As we're in, I could take the wheel, make sure it's centered, turn it to the right. It gave us 75 millimeter. I'm 79 millimeters. Okay. Stop. The bump stop's working fine. Came back, turn it all the way to the passenger or to the driver's side. Now it's negative 79 millimeters. It passed. Didn't have any damage. But when we're doing this, and then of course, and then we jack up the car even more. And I says, you know what, just for the hell of it, let's check this, let's spin this, and let's check the wheel bearing because once again, there wasn't any evident damage, but the strut itself went right through the strut tower to the cap.
Oh.
We found now the bearing was no good. The wheel, once we put it on our machine, didn't show any damage. The barrel was internally bent. The tread was actually split with these Sport Cup 2 tires. Okay, and our computer system was able to show that. And on top of it, once we had everything off, just for the hell of it, we're spinning it. We found a bent axle.
No kidding.
It's just an E-Ray. It's an all-wheel drive car. And that is provoked from just a short, candid conversation with iCar and knowing what Bud Center is, the word that he's trying to get out with Mike Anderson. I even mentioned it to Cole. I says, you know what? You got to get these guys together. Our industry needs to embrace these type of inspections because there's a lot of damage, I guarantee you, is going down the road that the average person doesn't know about. Now you know why I'm so adamant about trying to put together a comprehensive, collaborative education and a possible new direction for that technician for tomorrow.
That was such a good description of it. And you've been a proponent of that mechanical collision kind of collaboration, kind of the integration, if you will, of the two. I think you had mentioned ADAS. I think that's another element to that, and making sure that collision and repair are on the same playing field.
Right? Jay, and to answer that question real quick, my apprentice that I have underneath me, you know what the first thing that he's learned what to do first? He does all the 3D measuring with our CAD system for the structure of the car.
Really?
He is my mechanic, and he's also my ADAS technician and my alignment tech. Before that even reaches that, he's checking the integrity and the data line of that vehicle to make sure it's not compromised. He knows ahead of time, before it even goes on the alignment rack for a pre-alignment check, he's checking the structure. Do you see where the collaboration comes in?
How do you rate that up to present to the insurance company, right? Like, how do you...
We do it, we bill it. No exceptions.
Really?
That's right. There's a 2-hour check automatically because you know that vehicle has been compromised. Let's just say it got hit in the left front. The left front, it was hit hard enough where it compromised the unibody. Okay, we need a true 3D measurement because of the complexity and sensors that are throughout the rest of the vehicle. We also have to check for indirect damage. How are you going to do that? That's why we say we have a 2-hour prerequisite. It gets identified. It gets a 3D measurement. It gets a clean bill of health. If not, you know exactly where the damage is at. Then right after it comes down, the wheel, or before it comes down, the wheels, because it's hitting the left front, we're checking the wheels. We're checking the balance. We're checking the tire treads with the lasers. Okay. I have all John Bean equipment, the latest that's out. So now we get them back in there. Then the car goes over. It gets a pre-alignment check, which is a half hour minimal. The tire check, that's another inspection. That's all part of our safety protocol now, which I wasn't doing before until Bud Center. I know I'm referencing him more than once.
Oh, shout out to Bud. He's the best. Yes.
Yeah, he opened up my eyes and he's like, John, these safety inspections are very, very important. And I was very, it was, like I said, candid conversation, but I was honest with him. And he struck a chord, and now he created a new monster. I am definitely doing this on every single car that comes through the process, knowing that I could truly state we're trying to make it completely right.
That makes total sense. And the repair side of that, too, of saying, if you have an ASE certified tech that's actually doing
Correct.
Some of the safety inspection, like along with all of the other credentialing that you have, tying all of this together gives you that well-rounded technician that's actually giving a realistic look at this in a way. And also shout out to you for having the right tools to do it, right? It's hard to argue when you've got all of the tools to do
Bingo.
all of the things.
Same thing with the tires and the inspections there. We showed them a printout, and here you go. They were like totally shocked. Do you realize one of the appraisers had the balls to tell me, Jay, that that tire will wear back out. It'll be fine. I'm like, excuse me? Because it had a flat spot. It was side. This is another one that was side swiped, and it moved over. It literally had 2 flat spots on the front tires from the side initial impact. And he says, no, just let it drive itself. It'll be fine. Oh my God, I came unglued. Trust me. It was.
Can we put like a GoPro on you for one of these conversations for with an appraiser? I think.
Oh yes, especially
that would be content gold.
Yes. Oh wait. Wait. You're gonna love this one. It's funny. Now we're gonna go right into a juicy one. Another C8 came in. Right. It's like. And I don't like to mention any insurance company's name because I don't want to be considered a bad boy in the industry.
Right.
Okay? So he calls up. He says, "Hey, I want to schedule an appointment because I have to reevaluate the damage on the car." I says, "Well, I'm glad that you called." I says, "Because unless you have a C8 certification and access to the protocol that GM is stating on how this car gets to be fixed, we will have that report for you." I says, "But I would love to educate you. I'm going to have the car in place, and we're going to do the 3D measurement first, and we're going to have it already disassembled so it'll make the process go so much smoother, right?" Insurance adjuster's coming in. He's got his chest pumped out. I got all the guys wearing JDM shirts. We're all around the car, and then there's one guy there that he was like, "Oh, okay, who are you?" I says, "Oh, by the way," to the adjuster, I says, "This is the owner of the car." And he was like, "Excuse me?" I said, "That's right." I says, "I'm here to educate him on how this car is going to be properly fixed." I said, "So now we're going to start." And the guy was like, totally quiet. He didn't have the attitude like he normally does when he comes into the shop. When it was all said and done, press the final button. Here's the invoice. This is our complete repair plan. If there's any differences that are on here, it's going to be because of parts. That is it. I said, so there's no uncertain terms. This is what I'm submitting to your insurance company for them, the third-party payer that has this obligation to take care of this contractual agreement that you have with him. Your customer. I'm just a service provider. Welcome to my world. This guy, you could not get a peep out of him, and he left, okay? And guess what? We got compensated accordingly.
I think I told you over a couple of beverages one night that you should have a reality TV show, and I firmly believe that. I think if there was a camera following you around all day,
there was a lot more under your belt for that because of it. I remember that night. It was a great time.
It was a fun time. All right, so I've got a few questions for you, courtesy of our marketing team. I'm going to add one in to start with.
Sure.
First one is, where in the world do you come up with all the energy you have? You're always going 100 miles an hour, and I don't know that I've ever seen you like tired.
Jay, I love what I do, honest to God. And I want to emphasize that for everybody. If you don't love what you do, you shouldn't be doing it. Okay?
That's good advice.
I love cars. I always have. It's been in my blood, and I'm not going to stop. And like I said, I'm not getting any younger, and keeping engaged and involved is keeping me younger. All right, I'm going to be 62 years old, dude. And a lot of guys look at, man, you don't look old. You know why? Because I keep engaged. I keep busy, and keeping your mind. And I like being the sponge. I try to absorb anything that I can. If I go to a seminar or, I go to a panel discussion, if I pick up one thing out of that, it was a benefit,
Yeah.
And that's
you're as good about that as anybody. I mean, you really, really are. You're not just saying that. You very much are a sponge. You're a ball of energy all the time. That's why it's always so fun to talk to you. All right. Next question. If you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
I hate to admit this, but I probably would have been an attorney.
You would have been a hell of an attorney. I wouldn't have wanted to go against you.
Originally, I wanted to be an
really?
Yeah.
What kind of an attorney?
Just one that has teeth that pisses people off.
We already kind of talked about this one. What was your first job? That was kind of a layup for you, very similar to me. What was so? Last question. What time do you get up in the morning?
It varies. There's times that my mind is going 100 miles per hour. I look at the clock. It's like 3:30. It's like, all right, I'll make a pot of coffee. All right. And today I had another interview going over with Auto Body News on some other stuff. Or I should not with iCar, and I overslept. And it was not often that happens, but I'm up between 3 and 5 in the morning, and then if I sit down in a chair and I'm reading, I always read myself to sleep. I'm out by 9, 10 o'clock, and then I'm ready to roll. You know, and there's times that I don't, and there's times that I need to recharge that battery, and it feels great.
I'm kind of that same boat. What I'm most surprised by is that you actually sleep. I didn't think you actually slept. I just think I was thinking you just went 24 hours a day, 100 miles an hour. I didn't know that there was sleep in your in your calendar.
Once in a while, a glass of blackberry brandy does wonders.
Ooh, yeah. My great grandmother, that was her thing before she passed away. She was we did a toast of blackberry brandy. I don't know how you like blackberry brandy. That stuff is
It's too sweet.
It's too sweet. We used to, quick story for you before we have to get off of here. The reason I really don't like blackberry brandy is because when I was early 20s, we used to sneak little flasks of blackberry brandy into Wisconsin Badger football games and put that into a Coke. So, and then we would drink that. I don't know why we thought that was a good idea. It's probably the only thing we could afford. I don't know what it was. Definitely had too much of it in a short amount of time.
And never drink it again.
No. Other than toasting for my great grandmother, that was
An exception.
that was my extent of blackberry brandy. Yeah. Well, I can't tell you how fun this conversation was. As always, you're one of my favorite people in the industry. I think I led off by saying that,
I
and
appreciate that, buddy.
just your passion and everything you do shines through. It's always fun talking to you, and I hope you get a reality TV show someday, and I hope we're able to get you back on this podcast many more times.
We'll definitely be doing a follow up, and I'm looking forward. I'm working with you, ASC, and with iCar because I really think that we are going to get something that's going to be really great for our industry.
I do too. Thank you, my friend.
All right, you take care, Jay. Thank you.
That wraps up another episode of Beyond the Wrench. If you liked this episode, please show your support by rating and following the podcast. You can also watch the video interviews on WrenchWay's YouTube channel. Speaking of WrenchWay, did you know Beyond the Wrench is managed and produced by the WrenchWay team? WrenchWay is an online community dedicated to promoting and improving automotive and diesel careers. We help technicians find the best shops to work at, and we also help auto, diesel, and CTE instructors get more support from local industry. You can learn more by visiting wrenchway.com.